Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Air Raid Hour. My name is Steve Mathis. You can find me on Twitter at Judge Mathis. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Dave Tilton. You can find him on Twitter at Tilt Money. Together, we are the Bills guys, and this is the Air Raid Hour presented by Manscaped. And we are joined by some special guests today. We have Kyle Knapp of the Knapp Knows Buffalo podcast and Casey Reed, one of our staff writers here at BuffaloFanatics.com, and also host of the Buff City podcast, which airs on Saturdays during the regular season. So welcome in, gentlemen. And before we get started today, Dave, we need a baby update. We need a baby update.
Right now, baby is sleeping. She will be 2 weeks old on Saturday. Everything's been going well. She's been good, I would say, like 75% of the time. Otherwise, she's a little hellion, won't stop crying. We're making it through. I'm trying to keep a cool head and not get too stressed out about things. And, I've been told the first couple weeks are the hardest, but we're trying to make it through. But she's doing well. I can't complain. Think she's pretty cute, but I'm her parent, so of course I'm going to think that. And yeah, man. I mean, I'm good to go. I'm ready for it.
Speaking about ready to go, talk to us about who is in that chat section tonight. Who do we got with us?
Yeah, tonight we've got Bills Guys N was in there before we even came on. John Marlowe, Park DeBot, MOS, Sheldon Cole, Travis Sinnett is back. Cordy Buffalo is in the house. We've got Matthew Blake, Stephen Campione is in the house. Wow, we got some OGs coming back for tonight's show with Stephen Campione and Corey Buffalo. Richard Rush is in, a regular of ours. Sheldon Cole, Gangrene Skittle, Cody Wanniski. I haven't seen Ryan Teal come in yet, but Andrew Miller is in, another regular. We're still waiting for Randy to come in. Caitlin Blunt, she's been a regular of ours as well. She is in the house. So people are filing in right now, and I think we're almost up to 80 people already watching.
Yeah, would you look at that? Pretty good for the off season. And before we get started today, as always, this show, despite the fact that you cannot see the logo around anywhere, is brought to you by Manscaped. Get all of your great Manscaped grooming products by heading on over to manscaped.com, typing in the promo code Fanatics. You get 20% off plus free shipping. And Casey, you got yourself quite the Manscaped story. Talk to us about your Manscaped story.
Let me tell you. So
how effective is this product?
I was always told I couldn't have kids. Let me just put that out there. I was told at a young age, you're not going to be able to have kids.
By law?
By a doctor. I don't know if that's by law. A cop didn't come off the street and be like, hey, dude, you're never going to have kids, and then walk away. But a doctor looked at me and he said, hey, man, you're probably not going to be able to have kids. Fast forward a few months ago, my wife was like, hey, I want to start having kids. And I was like, hey, this is probably going to be, not good for you in the long end. You're going to get your hopes up, but adoption is always the case. We talked about all the different options. And I went out and I got Manscaped. This was in July. I got Manscaped, right?
The ball toner, I would admit it.
Yeah, so I got the package. There's a package. It's like 50 something bucks. I got the whole package. I used it. Wife couldn't keep her hands off me. October, boom, she's pregnant. So is it a coincidence? I'm going to let y'all decide, right? I'm not going to sit here and say that it has magical, properties that make guys fertile, but it definitely makes women want you. So, that's my 2 cents.
So scientifically proven, no research to back it up, but manscaping will make you less sterile. And Kyle, I heard that there was maybe some sort of mishap shaving your mustache, so you don't want to show yourself on camera, but give us an update on Knapp Knows Bills and what's going on in Knapp's world.
Just plugging along. Yeah, look, I have some technical difficulties on my end. I'm not going to lie. My camera's not working. I got to make sure I get this fixed. But, yeah, just plugging along every single week. I got Casey coming on tomorrow. We actually recorded it yesterday, and those technical difficulties caused what ended up being like an hour-ish show. Took us like 2.5 hours to record, but we got it done. It's a good show, so I can't wait for everybody to listen to it. So hopefully everybody tunes in.
Yeah, Nap is just afraid to show his face without a mustache.
No, look, my face looks.
aggressive.
I'm not gonna lie, my face looks so much better without a mustache. It would like there was not a single person in my life who I am like close to that didn't tell me that while I had it in the season. They were like, "No, you need to get rid of it." Like everybody was begging me to get rid of it. No, can't do it. I'm doing my 111.
I guess our opinion doesn't count for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Not-
Yeah.
Because I was
close.
team
Okay, I'm sorry.
I was too.
Family, like long-standing, very, very close friends I've had since like high school. We'll go that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not family. We're not family. That's fine. Whatever.
So here's the direction we're gonna go during our show today. And people in the comments section, we're gonna need your help sort of working our way through this show because our theme of this show is keep or replace key starters. So we're gonna talk about all the key free agents that the Buffalo Bills have this offseason. John Feliciano, Daryl Williams, Matt Milano. Possibly, we'll talk about the possibility of Mario Addison, Quentin Jefferson, Vernon Butler, John Brown becoming free agents as well, and talk about how we want the Buffalo Bills to go about replacing these players. We're going to start up front on offense with the offensive line because I'm not going to lie to you. The last couple of days, it's been J.J. Watt. It's been defense this. It's been defense that. I want to talk a little bit about the trenches up front on our offensive line. Obviously, continuity is important on an offensive line, but they also has to be a continuity for the better. You're not just bringing guys back for the sake of bringing guys back. You want to bring them back because you think you're building something great. So let's start with the offensive line, John Feliciano. And Dave, I'll start with you. Do you keep John Feliciano or do you let John Feliciano walk in free agency? And what is your number one optimal way to go about replacing John Feliciano if you want him gone?
Well, this is tough, right? Because there's this element of Feliciano being very close with Josh Allen and kind of being there with him in some of those Instagram stories when he got his injury and all this stuff. So there is an element there that you would not want to see him go for sake of camaraderie, for sake of chemistry. But to be honest with you, if SpotTrack's correct, and I don't think they're correct, I feel like they're probably over projecting him. They're going to go and he's going to make somewhere in the $6 to $8 million a year range in a free agent market where guard is not really heavy in star power other than a few big names at the top that are still pretty old or older, like Scherf. So is it as painful as it is for me to say this? I think that you probably let John Feliciano go because if I'm choosing between one of the two guys, I'm going to re-sign Daryl Williams and I'm going to replace John Feliciano with someone through the draft. Now, we went through some of our free agent options at guard, and yes, there are 1-year options you can go with, like a new Potty who's older or a DJ Fluker. But for me, I'm falling in love with a lot of these interior offensive linemen in the draft, and I think there's a lot of good ones, especially you could have in like the 3rd round or maybe even 4th, maybe even the 2nd if you've like a Wyatt Davis like I do. So for me, I'm like more about I'd rather build this line for the long term and really kind of make a good investment in that line up front and get someone on a more cost controlled number in the draft than I would feel comfortable paying John Feliciano like $6 to $8 million a year. I know there's two camps here, but that's kind of where I fall.
Where do you think the Bills thinking is? Because the Buffalo Bills have mentioned, or actually John Feliciano has come out and tweeted, like, I feel rather confident that I'm going to re-sign with the Buffalo Bills. And then you have Daryl Williams, who's been radio silent. Where do you think the Bills' mindset is at? John Feliciano or Daryl Williams?
I would think the Bills' mindset's Daryl Williams. I mean, I say that just based purely on the fact that for one, we don't really ever hear a lot from Bills players, honestly, around their contract situations. I mean, everyone kind of got fired up with John Feliciano, put that post on Twitter, like big news in 30 minutes. And it was like something about a video game. But look, I get it, Richard, without Mongo use that Mitch Morse backup and center. But there's also guys in the draft, like I said, that you can go out and get as like a short-term guard and long-term center replacements. If you're going to look at guys like Landon Dickerson or Creed Humphrey, those guys can come in and play guard day one but eventually be a backup center, or their natural positions of center. They start out at guard. They have that flex to do it. So I just feel like for $8 million or whatever he's going to cost, it's not worth it to me. And so if I'm the Bills, I'm more looking at Daryl Williams. And if Daryl Williams is going to cost me $8 million to $10 million a year, if I have to choose between one or the other, I'm going to pay Daryl Williams. He's younger. He plays right tackle, which to me is a harder position to replace. And he's more talented, I think, at his peak than John Feliciano is. And not to mention, we weren't that good running inside this year. I mean, the guard play left a lot to be desired. And as much as you'd like John Feliciano's ability to play center as a backup there, I just don't know that the play on the field warrants you paying him that much money. And that, there's going to be disagreements there, but that's just my opinion.
Kyle, what do you think? Do the Buffalo Bills, do you want to personally keep John Feliciano, or do you want to let him walk?
I mean, I think this is two separate things, because I want to keep him because he's fun. He's a fun guy to have on the team. He's fun to root for. But when you look at the numbers, when you look at the value of a guard in the NFL versus the value of a tackle, everything that Dave was just saying, it doesn't financially make sense to pay Feliciano $8 million. And I think the Bills are probably thinking about it the same way of, look, we have a number. We're not going to go above X, whatever that is, whether that's $4-5 million a year. They're not going to go above whatever that is. And if Feliciano is like, no, I need to go above that, they're probably going to just let him walk, because you can find cheaper, more value in draft. You can find other guys who are going to be better financial replacements this year, who might also still be able to help be like that mean guy. Because Feliciano is kind of known for being the mean guy on the offensive line. But you could find other guys to replace that. Obviously, the continuity issue, him and Josh Allen, their relationship, that all does play into it. But when you have the financial restrictions that the Bills and every single other team this year have, you're going to have to make some difficult decisions. And unfortunately, because of the value of the guard position, it feels like Feliciano might be one of those difficult decisions, because you could find a one-year replacement, or you could go out and you could get somebody in the draft, because there, like Dave said, plenty of talent in the draft this year. So as much as I don't want to see him go, he's probably one of the guys that has to go, unless he's willing to really take a pay cut. Well, I guess not a pay cut, but take less than his quote unquote market value.
Yeah, no, I really with. I think. Listen, I said this before. If you have any hope in your mind that Cody Ford is going to step up and be a quality offensive lineman in the National Football League, and you already have Ike Bucker, who's going to be on his restricted free agent contract, 1 year, $2 million. I wouldn't be surprised if Ike Bucker signs an extension and stays around as our swing interior offensive lineman, a guy who can back up both guards and center. The case for Feliciano is Josh Allen loves him. The case for Feliciano is he's the toughest guy on the interior. The case for Feliciano is he's got that guard center flex. All those things are for Feliciano. But that being said, none of that makes up for the fact that he is a replacement level player. And when you are a good football team, you don't pay replacement level players $6 to $8 million. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. So if Buffalo Bills, I'm looking for a guy like Nick Easton, who just got caught in New Orleans, Joe Haig in Tampa, who will be a free agent, who was coached by Bobby Johnson in Indianapolis, a guy like Lane coming off some in Green Bay, and I'm bringing them in to and draft boy. This is where you come in. Who are some offensive guards the Buffalo Bills should have their eye on at the 30th pick or in the second round? Who are some day 1, day 2 picks the Buffalo Bills should have their eye on a guard?
Let me tell you, I was actually the opposite of all of y'all. I'm here to re-sign him. In fact, I was the one who was saying I want Daryl Williams to walk. I'd rather see him walk and replace his level. But to answer your question, David already touched on it. Wyatt Davis, I don't like Creed Humphrey personally, but then David went on to say that his position would be guard, and I feel like that fits him better than center did when he was in college. But of course, Landon Dickerson, his value is actually going to drop. He had a lot of injuries. In fact, his whole career has just been injuries. In 2020 with Alabama, he's got a knee scope, I think, or something to do with the knee. So that's somebody to keep an eye on. My draft darling will never even get to us. If he does happen to drop that far, they should pounce on him quickly, and that's Vera Tucker. Vera Tucker is the guy that I absolutely love. But I'm here to re-sign Feliciano. Like I am. I'm here for it. We keep talking about the $8 million range, the $7 to $8 million. Daryl Williams is the same. He's the same. Of course, they play two different positions, and tackle is more of a prominent position. Me and Knapp had that discussion yesterday about two different positions and which one you'd rather pay and all that other stuff. And I'm still saying that we should let Daryl Williams walk. In fact, I'm here to say that we should draft his replacement in Spencer. What was his name? Spencer Brown. He's out of Northern Iowa. That dude is a monster. I love him. So
you're willing to risk
yes,
Josh Allen having to play with a rookie right tackle.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, 100%. And you make it sound
while
like
overpaying for a replacement level guard.
Yeah, I am. I'm going to die on this hill. I'm okay with that. But Spencer Brown is a beast. Like, I love watching him play. You're not going to find a lot of tape on him, or if you're using YouTube, you're not going to find a lot on him. But just go to YouTube and type in Spencer Brown, Northern Iowa, and it is awesome. You're not going to sit there and bull rush this guy. Like, it's just not going to happen. The dude is stout. Big, tall Spencer Brown. I love him. I love watching him. There was a rep from the Senior Bowl where he stood up Patrick Jones from Pittsburgh. Like, that was an awesome rep. I love seeing that. The one thing that I would say about Spencer Brown that I'm not liking, what I see is that, quick inside moves kind of give him a little bit of trouble. But there's a reason why you play right tackle and not left tackle, and that's because, your feet aren't as fast as they would be if you want to play left tackle. So I like him. I like bringing him in day 2, actually, because that's good value for him, and he'd immediately start. So yeah, I'm all for letting Daryl Williams walk. Another reason is, what if Daryl Williams turns into a pumpkin? So you sign him to this contract, and he turns into a pumpkin, and all of a sudden you're kind of stuck with a right tackle that reverted back to his old ways when he was with Carolina. So
yeah, we've got Ike coming in, and he says, we got Josh Richardson coming in saying Ike isn't strong enough to play center. Just ask Mr. Morris. Here's what I'll say. I say Ike is strong enough to play your swing center, a guy who goes in case of injuries. But I agree that Mitch Morse can improve upon a lot of things in the running game, but I'd rather bring in 2 big, bulky guards, starting with Cody Ford at left guard, and then either drafting a guy or signing a guy or re-signing Mongo at right guard, and then work on that scheme and get that scheme up to par. So, Knapp, I'm going to swing it to you now. Make the case for re-signing Daryl Williams.
Please, just make the case.
I mean, the case is you don't want to have to replace 2 offensive linemen, and if you're going to pay one of them, so that, like, why would you want to leave the outside edge up to, like you said, a rookie or a guy who's just learning the system? I want to pay the guy who's going to do the most to protect Josh Allen, and as a tackle, that's going to be Daryl Williams right now. So I want to pay him. We saw what he did against one of the top pass rushers in the league, TJ Watt. We saw the effect he had on the game when he was playing at his best. We're not going to get that guy every single game. We know that. But we've seen the potential that he can have those types of games. And if he has 3 or 4 of those games and they're against the really good defensive ends, he's worth the money at tackle automatically. And his baseline, we know he's a average at worst tackle. So if his ceiling is really high and his average is good, or his worst is going to be an average level player, he's worth paying as a tackle to have that consistency for Josh Allen, because it's much easier to replace the interior offensive line than it is to replace the exterior at tackle. So that's why I want to pay Daryl Williams and keep him. I don't want to give him a ton of money. I don't want to give him like a long-term deal. I want to give him just like a 2-year deal, make it short, make it sweet. You could even do like a 2-year where it's a 1+1 with the team option where you can get out in the second year if he doesn't perform well. But you got to keep some sort of consistency on that right side, because it feels like the left side of the offensive line is pretty much set. So you can't switch every single thing up on that side.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. And Pierre, one of the founders here at Buffalo Fanatics, everyone knows who Pierre is. I don't know why I had to explain who he is, but Pierre stated, for the one guy who's tuning in for the first time and has no idea who we are, Pierre stated he thinks that sort of a lot of these market values on Spot Track and stuff are just complete horseshit because of the situation we find ourselves in. I mean, just today they announced, well, the lowest the cap can be is 180 million. That still puts the New Orleans Saints like $85 million over the salary cap or something like that, like 60 million or something. And there's a ton of teams who find themselves at or above the cap. And he thinks that a lot of players are going to be really humbled and have to take these 1-year deals or take these deals well below market value. If you think about it, you cut Vernon Butler, you save $7 million, right? Despite the fact that in a normal offseason, Daryl Williams, after the season he had, is probably going to get 2 years, 20 million. Maybe you could get Daryl Williams for maybe 2 years, 6 million this year, 8 million next year, or 2 years, 7 million this year, like 8 million or 10 million next year. You can lower the value this year and raise the value next year, make that second year easier to get out of, you explained. Maybe Daryl Williams and some of these guys will be coming below market value because of the COVID cap. And then on top of that, I forgot to mention earlier with Mongo, if we do sign Mongo to a big money deal, like a $6-7 million, I want it to be one of those contracts that is super easy to get out of in year 2 and year 3, where we can just, all right, we really need Mongo because we just don't think we can replace him this year. We have other needs we want to address. We're going to re-sign to a multi-year deal, but all that money is going to be like in the first year, and then we can just cut him and move on and draft a guy the next year. So that's where I'm going with Mongo. But back to Daryl Williams. Dave, you have yourself a sleeper offensive tackle. Make the argument for not bringing Daryl Williams back because of free agency. Make the argument about not bringing Daryl Williams back because of free agency.
I mean, if you don't want to, like, okay, so I'll say this, right? if market values aren't depressed a ton, right? And if Daryl Williams is going to get in the $10 million a year range on a 2 or 3 year deal, then there could be a case made as to why you would not want to bring him back. Maybe you feel like, his play sort of tailed off at the end of the season. He's going to be 29, 30 years old coming up. Like Casey said, maybe like he was a little bit of a 1-year wonder back, although I don't personally believe this. I'm just trying to make the case against it. You can go out in a free agency and you can find someone, right? You can find, like we talked about this, Steve, like there are tackles out there like a Kendall Lamb who can be a swing tackle for you, probably in the neighborhood of $3 million a year. He can play right tackle for you. Played for the Browns this year, played both sides. They were a good running team. He's a guy you could go out and go after. But the guy I mentioned before and that we promoted was Roderick Johnson, right? He's 26 years old. He's basically the backup swing tackle, or he was the backup swing tackle for Tunsil and Titus Howard in Houston. Graded out pretty well as a run blocker. He's a former high draft pick, and he's a guy that's probably on the free agent market going to cost you maybe half the amount of a guy like Daryl Williams. I'm just speculating, but because of he's relatively unknown and because he's kind of bounced around the league a little bit, played limited snaps, he's a guy that maybe Bean looks at and says, that's a guy we can work with. He can be our Daryl Williams of 2021 and potentially beyond, and maybe we can pay him half the amount of money we pay Daryl Williams, and we can give him a 3, maybe 4-year contract that we could, like you said, get out of easy if it turns out that he doesn't work out. But with all that said, those are cases to be made against bringing Daryl Williams back, on top of the fact that there are also some good tackle prospects in the draft that I like. Although I think that there's better value in the sort of middle rounds on the interior, there are tackle prospects that I do like. So, you have options if you don't sign him back. But, just to hit on the point you said, Steve, around and the point around Pierre saying if market values are depressed. If market values are depressed, then I think the Bills would be doing a disservice if they didn't prioritize Daryl Williams first and John Feliciano second in that order and try to bring both of them back if market values are depressed. But your priority should still be on Daryl Williams, even though I know I've just tried to make the case against it. But I've just, in my heart of hearts, I want him back for this team. So, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on the Roderick Johnson thing. And the thing about Roderick Johnson that gets to me is this is a guy who at 26 years old, we have a chance to possibly sign him to like a 4-year, $16 million deal, right?
Right.
And that's half, not only is that half the price of Daryl Williams, who you'd probably get on a 2-year deal, but if this dude reaches his ceiling and becomes a very good right tackle in the National Football League, you have your right tackle locked down for 4 years at probably half the market value or 1/3 the market value of probably what he's worth. So if you can buy low on a Roderick Johnson, I think that's way more worthwhile than locking in a Daryl Williams for 2 years. Daryl Williams would be more stopgap. Roderick Johnson would be more long term. But Matt Filer is another name out there from Pittsburgh. Is another guy I think could be like a 1-year stopgap option if we can't re-sign Daryl Williams. But there are options out there in free agency if we're not looking to overpay Daryl Williams. And if we're looking to the draft, Mr. Draftman, cash out BF, anyone other than Spencer Brown stick out to you in this tackle class?
Samuel Cosby is another one. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his last name correct. He's not gonna fall close to us. He's such a good prospect. He plays on the left side for Texas, but you can move him to the right side. I can see that happening.
At 30, he could be there at 30.
He'll be there. At 30.
Yeah, you think so? You think so? Because I've been using, not to plug anybody else, but I've been using the Draft Network a lot, and man, it has been hard to come by. He gets snatched up pretty quickly there in the middle by Los Angeles Chargers pretty quickly. So that's what I'm saying. He might not be there, but I like him. Outside of that, David made a really good point. There are a lot more interior. I started liking Leatherwood in the beginning when I first started looking at draft prospects, but Leatherwood is pretty far on my list right now for tackle.
He's a guard, right? He's a guard.
Yeah.
Are you finally starting to realize what I've been telling you?
Yeah. Shut up. There's a lot more interior offensive linemen in the draft than there are really good tackles. I think the fall off from just like edge defenders. I think the fall off from tackle from the first, blue chip players down to maybe a backup or swing. That's a very big drop off. There's no middle ground with tackles. So that's a case to bring back Daryl Williams. When you look at it that way, you can find more value in the interior in the draft than you can at tackle at this point.
All right. There's one tackle that sticks out to me like a absolute sore thumb.
I know.
That's Walker Little from Stanford. Everybody knows I love me some Walker Little.
Everybody's talking about Walker Little.
Okay, but I
like the dude from
I was talking about first.
I like the dude from North Dakota State personally. What's
Dylan Radune's the John Fina lookalike?
Yeah, I like
Dylan. There's Jalen Mayfield as well from Michigan.
Oh, don't even.
He's gonna pull out his notepad here.
Yeah, let me hold on. Let me just look at it. If we want to go to Jalen Mayfield from Michigan. One person that I did see that you could get in the later rounds was what's his name? Jackson Carman from Clemson. The issue with him,
he's going to be a guard. He's going to be a guard.
He's going to be a guard. He's going to be a guard. And that's the point that I was trying to make. A lot of these tackles are going to switch into the guard play. So there's a lot more interior guards or interior linemen that you can find outside tackle.
So
basically what we're saying is
with you saying
bring back Daryl Williams.
Wouldn't that kind of go against your entire point of you want to let Daryl Williams walk? The fact that you're saying a lot of these tackles are actually guards.
That's what I was saying, right? It all depends. I'm making a case for it. Sure, you could see that. You could let them walk, right? I just like the value of finding somebody in the second round because a lot of people on this show, right, and you're in the comments are saying, we want to build younger. We want to get younger in this. We want to get younger. Why are we not thinking about drafting a right tackle, right? And I think Trey Adams was mentioned on this show a few weeks back. And you're kind of hoping that he evolves into that right tackle, but I don't know what his development is right now. So, yeah, I mean, there's a case to be made, but there's a case to be made with signing Feliciano as well.
Yeah, I'm just going to go back to my point about Walker Little. Here's a guy who he was in the same high school recruiting class as Jedrick Wills, as Mekhi Becton, all of these really good tackles who got drafted last year. He's a guy who had a little bit of injury history at Stanford. He missed a ton of games. He opted out of this season, but Walker Little had a better spark score than all of those guys. He had a better athletic profile than all of those guys. This is a sort of like Trey Adams without the massive knee injuries. And Walker Little is an absolute athletic freak. So I think in the perfect world, if you're the Buffalo Bills, you lock up Daryl Williams for 2 years, and you draft Walker Little because he's got that left-right flex. He can be your swing tackle. He can develop behind Deion Dawkins and Daryl Williams, and then he becomes your starting right tackle. Problem solved. You're welcome, Bills Mafia. Anyway, we're moving on now. We're moving on to linebacker, and I want to talk a little bit about linebacker. And Dave, I'm going to start with you. Matt Milano. If he's going to cost us anything more than $11 million, is he worth it?
I don't think so if you're bringing Daryl Williams back. I mean, I know this is like the conversation we've had all season, off season. Is like you're going to maybe have to decide between the two of them. Honestly, if you're the Bills, if I'm Brandon Beane and I'm looking at the free agents we have, right? You go down the list. You've got, Andre Roberts is a free agent. Tyler Kroft's a free agent. Trent Murphy's going to be gone. Obviously, he's a free agent. But then you have guys like Isaiah McKenzie and Dean Marlowe and TJ Yeldon and Matt Barkley. And you start going down this list and you're like, which of these guys can we actually bring back? And if you're the Bills, I think you have to be looking at it and you say, if we have a chance to bring just a few guys back, like we should try to bring back Daryl Williams and Matt Milano. But if Matt Milano is going to cost you, $11 to $14 million a year, and you're Brandon Beane and you're saying, no, we like the value that Andre Roberts brings, we're going to re-sign him. We like the value that Dean Marlowe and Isaiah McKenzie bring. We're going to bring back both of those guys. Then it's going to be really tough to re-sign Milano. Now, in my heart of hearts, I would love to have him back, but I also know in my brain, I feel like it's probably unrealistic to think that he's going to be back. You listen to what Brandon Beane said about him, and I mentioned this comment before. It was very similar to what he said about Jordan Phillips and Shaq Lawson last year. It was, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, Matt's earned the right to test free agency. We'd love to have him back, but he's earned the right. It was pretty much exactly what he said about Shaq and Jordan Phillips, and we saw what happened with those guys. Now, do I believe Brandon Beane when he says we'd love to have him back? Absolutely. But I also believe that he probably knows if the cap's at $180 million, it's going to be really tough for him to bring back Matt Milano. And that's why, for linebacker, in free agency in the draft, I also feel like that's probably where you're going to go, especially with some of these sort of safety linebacker flex type guys you see in the draft class this year. There's a lot of appealing talent in the draft that somewhere where you could look at and say, like, that's a guy that we potentially could fill that Matt Milano role. And let's not forget, he was a 5th round pick himself. So the fact is that the Bills could find his replacement. I'd love to have him back, but I just don't see it happening.
We got Josh Richardson coming in. Back to the offensive line. He talks. How would you guys feel about your guard could play better? Let's sign Patrick Peterson, JJ Watt, and John Ross. I'm not high on Larry Warford. Like he's a guy towards the tail end of his career. And if you look in free agency, it's not pretty at guard outside of John Feliciano, like Brandon Scherf, and one or two other guys. It's not pretty. The guys that are good, you're going to have to pay. And that's why I almost feel like it's almost a lock, despite the fact that I disagree with it. I feel like it's almost a lock that Mongo is going to be back because it's going to be very hard to replace Mongo. Number one, Mongo will probably be willing to take a small discount to come back to Buffalo. And number two being, you look at that free agent class and you're just like, woof. Like if Larry Warford is what we're talking about, I mean, come on. Mm-hmm. Larry Warford hasn't been relevant in a while. Like, has he had a couple of good patchwork seasons here and there the past couple of seasons? Yes. But he hasn't been a relevant guard in a while. And then you're putting your faith in, hopefully the board falls our way and we get a guard in the 1st or 2nd round. And you don't want to play that game. You don't want to play chicken with your offensive guard position. You want to be assured that there's someone there even before draft day that's going to be an effective football player on your team next year because you're all in on this offense. So to me, that's another reason why I think Matt Milano could walk, is because I just don't. I see the Bills possibly putting a priority in that offensive line in Mongo and Daryl Williams. Casey, let's talk to you a little bit.
Steve.
Matt Milano, bring him back or let him walk?
You hit the price tag at 11 mil. I think me and Matt,
I said that's the maximum I would pay for him.
The max you would give him. When you're
honestly, the max I would give him is 10, but
That's
threw
that's
whatever
what I
you
said
said,
too.
Yeah.
And that's the point that I was trying to make when it's like 10 million versus 11 million. We're I hate to use the word like slicing pennies right now, but I'd let him walk. I think that this draft class, you can find some good replacements for him in this draft class. Plus, if he wants to play for a contender, he's not going to get that money, not with the cap space the way it is this year. He probably go somewhere and go get that bag. Like, that it just is what it is. He's probably not going to find it this year.
We got Randy coming in saying there are some big rangy linebackers available, possibly in the middle rounds, but definitely in the top 2 rounds. What kind of linebackers have stuck out in the middle of the draft for you here, Casey? I know there's one that's caught your eye. You're a year too late on them. No offense.
I know. Surratt, no matter what. I mean, that just is what it is. I love him. Like I love watching him. I was on vacation for a week and I was like, I'm gonna dive into the draft. I'm gonna do that. I caught myself watching like every North Carolina game the past 2 years, and I was having fun with it. That whole team is. I'm sorry, Dave, but that whole team is just a fun team to watch.
I'm an NC State guy.
Great.
It's rough.
It's just fun to watch them.
I mean, I hate to say it, but you're right. Like Chesrat is the man. I mean, two-time first team All ACC. He's only been playing linebacker for 2 years. He was
2 years
came in recruited by Fedora before he was canned to play quarterback. So he's got a ceiling for days. So it pains me as an NC State guy to say this, but Chesrat is really like he would be a nice option for the Bills, I would say.
What about Nick Bolton? You got any looks at Nick
I'm not
Bolton
as
yet?
high on him. I'm not as high on him.
I'm not.
He comes
no,
off.
Go ahead. I just don't.
He comes off more as like a middle linebacker, strong side linebacker to me, is from what I've seen. So I don't really see him filling the Matt Milano role, to be honest with you. So I know a lot of people like him, and don't get me wrong, he's a great player. He'd be a great Mike, and he'd be probably a great strong side backer. But are you going to bring him in and then maybe try to get him to play weak side? Like, to me, it's not like a perfect fit. So although I like Nick Bolton, the player, I don't know about the fit for the Bills.
Yeah, we've got Randy coming in saying the guy whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce from Notre Dame. Hopefully he slips. Zaven Collins, hopefully he slips. Those guys will be interesting on the board at 30. You've obviously got
Jabril Cox is the other guy.
That's who I was going to mention. I think he's an interesting one.
And I like Tony Fields from West Virginia. He's a little undersized, but guess what? So is Matt Milano. You get a guy like Tony Fields in here. You also add a bigger nickel, and you have some kind of rotation of a bigger nickel, Tony Fields and AJ Klein. I think you could make that work on defense. I made this point on the show before. We were good in 2017 when Matt Milano was a 5th-round linebacker who didn't even crack the lineup till week 9. And we survived and had a really good defense with Ramon freaking Humber and Raphael Bush playing that role. So it should be interesting.
Let's get Knapp to talk about Jabril Cox then, because Sheldon Cole says who's the best covering tight end in the draft, not Nick Bolton. I would say it's Jabril Cox is the best coverage linebacker in the draft, other than maybe Olosu.
That's kind of why I'm interested in him. Is he's a guy who's long, he's rangy, he can move a little bit. And when you're covering tight ends, you have to worry. The Bills have to remember they have to draft and they have to try and work their roster around how are we going to stop the Kansas City Chiefs. And Travis Kelce is a huge part of that. And a guy like Jabril Cox, he might not come in and be like incredible day one against a guy like Travis Kelce, because obviously like it's just different levels. But he's the type of guy who has the abilities to come in and a year in, 2 years in, be that guy who can stop or at least slow down a guy like Travis Kelce or a guy who is similar to Travis Kelce to the point where it helps the defense out enough where the offense can't actually go after him. So I want a rangy linebacker. I want a long linebacker. Not to mention, if you put a guy like him next to Edmonds in the defense, that's 2 guys who have size, speed, and length. And in a defense that plays primarily zone, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I want to move on now to the secondary because I have a hot take here. I have a rather hot take here.
Tell me your hot take.
I would be completely content with these 5 cornerbacks. These 5 cornerbacks on our roster next year. Tell me whether I'm crazy or I'm not crazy. And my cornerback depth chart that I would be okay with is CB1 Trey White, CB2 Dane Jackson, CB3 in the nickel, Taiwan Johnson, CB4 Cam Lewis with a little inside-outside flex, and your fifth corner being Saran Neal, who's obviously your Buffalo nickel type of player and a big-time special teamer. That means I'm letting Levi Wallace walk. I'm either not tendering him because I don't think he's worth $2 million when we're up against the cap right like that. Randy Hardman comes in, and Ryan Talbot from New York Upstate just said today that I could have this wrong. The cornerback from Syracuse, whose name also sounds like the cornerback from North Carolina or South Carolina. I don't know if that's the right corner there, but the Buffalo Bills had a great interview at the Senior Bowl with the corner from South Carolina. So even if they're thinking about drafting a guy, you know, I'm completely content with pretty much the Bills not addressing the secondary at cornerback. I think they need a Buffalo nickel more. I think they need to beef up the defensive line more. Am I crazy to think I don't think the Buffalo Bills need to add a single corner and could in fact even lose Levi Wallace? Dave, am I crazy?
Yeah, you are.
I'm crazy. Tell me why I'm crazy.
I think, well, we saw what happened this year when we had an injury or two, right? It was an issue, right? I don't know that you want to. I mean, I want Dane Jackson too, so I agree with you there as he should start as CB2, but I feel like the Bills really need I think they need a rotation of 3 sort of boundary guys that you can really rely on. And so for me, I don't see that third guy on the roster right now, unless it's Levi Wallace or you're going to replace Levi Wallace. Okafonwu, I think is the guy's name from Syracuse that the Bills met with. I can't remember if that's how you say his name or not, but he's the size guy. He's the boundary guy. I wouldn't mind seeing him go after that. The problem is if you're the Bills, you probably have to draft that guy in the first round. And I'm not really into drafting a first round corner. So from that perspective, Steve, I kind of agree with you that I don't know that early draft capital should be spent on the corner, but I do like the idea of maybe the Bills going the route again, like they did last year with picking a guy in the later rounds, like they did with Dane Jackson, that they can bring along and then maybe have that guy as kind of the extra boundary guy. I would feel pretty uncomfortable if those were the only 5 corners on the roster personally.
Nap, am I crazy?
Yes and no. I think you're crazy for the idea that you would do that while also letting Levi walk. Not because Levi should be a starter, but because he's a much better option as that third corner, knowing that you can rely on a guy like him to come in for a single game. And we know he's not going to be perfect. We know he's going to make a couple mistakes. But a guy like him at CB3, I'm much more comfortable with that than Saran Neal. No offense. I know you love Saran Neal, but I would much rather see a guy who's been playing consistently for the last 3 years than a guy who's been a special teamer for the last 3 years.
Yeah, I think I'm more on the train of Cam Lewis, to be honest with you. I like what I saw from Cam Lewis with that inside-outside flex. He's a UB guy, so you know he's good. And I feel like I saw what Tampa Bay did in the Super Bowl, and they just had such a ferocious pass rush. That entire secondary was 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th round draft picks. There was no studly looking defensive back there. There was no highly drafted defensive back there, relatively highly drafted defensive back. So Casey,
exactly. So do what I say.
I'm not calling for a high draft pick or anything like that. I just don't think that you should lose solid depth.
Yeah. We got we'll get to you in a second, Josh. Casey, do you think I'm crazy or not?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I'd tender Levi Wallace. Like I'd go ahead and tender him because Dave made a good point, right? If you're gonna want that stud cornerback, you're gonna have to draft him in the first round, unless it's Syracuse, Milano. But I don't know where he's projected to go, right? Draft Network has him at like 72 overall player. But I've seen mock drafts at him at 21, and then I've seen mock drafts where he's not drafted.
The point being is that if you don't take him in the first round, he's probably not going to get to you at pick whatever you have 60 in the second round. So
correct, yes. And are you okay with drafting Asante Samuel? Because he's probably going to be the guy that drops to you. But he's undersized for what McDermott likes to run on his back end.
He's also,
he's
from
not
what I
comfortable in
understand,
zone.
he's more of a man-to-man guy too.
He is. He's not comfortable in zone either. So he's not a scheme fit. So at that point, like who are you going to draft? Bryce Thompson in later rounds. I don't know.
Steve's
like,
guy,
who?
Greg Newsome.
It's like he's
Greg
a second
Newsome.
rounder probably.
Syracuse has a really good secondary. There's Trill somebody.
Daryl Williams.
Trill Williams is a guy that I like as well. But no, you can't play that game like you're going to play with the offensive line if you let him go and then hope that you get depth in the draft.
Paulson Adebo, that's my guy. Second round, I'll take him.
Casey, what's your thought on this take here from Josh Richardson? Let's move Edmonds to weak side, draft Nick Bolton, sign Rhodes, and maybe Richard Sherman to team-friendly deals. Let's focus on that first part. What are your thoughts on kicking Edmonds outside and drafting a true middle in a more of a thumper like Nick Bolton?
If you're going to draft Nick Bolton, then yes, you can make it happen because Nick Bolton is a standard middle linebacker. But I don't see the Bills moving Edmonds to weak side. I don't see it happening.
So do you think a guy like Bolton wouldn't even be on the Buffalo Bills draft board or what?
I don't think so. No, I don't think they're looking for that traditional middle linebacker, that thumper, that spikes type of player. I don't think they're looking for that. They're looking for very, very, very athletic, rangy linebackers.
All right.
Agree.
So I'm going rogue here, gentlemen. I'm going to go rogue.
Go rogue.
And I'm going to ask you to spend some time. And I want you to think about all the Buffalo Bills free agents. And I want you to power rank them 1 to 5, who you want to come back the most to who you want to come back the least. 1 to 5. So pick the top 5 free agents that you want to come back on this roster. Who do you think is the first one we should go after, the second one, the third one, the fourth one? And
now, is this based on what we want or based on what we think is going to happen?
That's what I was going to ask.
Based on what we want. Based on what we want. We as fans, we as prognosticators, what do we want? I'm going to start with my number one. And I'm going to go with Daryl Williams. I think the most important player to lock down this offseason of all our unrestricted free agents is the guy who protects Josh Allen on the outside. I think it'll be a lot easier to replace a guard than replace a tackle. I think Daryl Williams is more important to this offense and harder to replace on this offense than Matt Milano is to replace on this defense. I think Matt Milano is a better player than Daryl Williams, but I still think he could be more easily replaced than Daryl Williams. So my number one free agent that I want to lock down is Daryl Williams. And Dave, since you're the co-host of the show, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Who is your number one guy that
Daryl
you would
Williams.
want to bring back? Daryl Williams as well?
Yep.
What about you? What about
I mean, I have it written down. I can show it to you to prove it.
how about you, Nat? Who do you want?
I'm right there with you. Daryl Williams is my number one. The Bills, like he's the guy you have to go after first.
Who do you got? Who you got, Mr. Draft Man?
That's a hard one. All of y'all want Daryl Williams, and I can't sit there and be like Daryl Williams after I sat there and said that I would cut him or not re-sign him. So no, in a perfect world, you don't want to see any of these key contributors leave, but I would say John Feliciano. I'm gonna die on this hill. I will die on this hill. And there's my brother Minnie coming in saying Matt Milano is easier to replace than Daryl Williams 100%. Thanks for agreeing with me.
Man. You're a smart
Thank
man.
you, Manny, for
he
agreeing
knew
with me.
He knew you needed some help out here.
Get out of here.
Andrew Miller, his list is Daryl Williams, Levi Wallace. I think he might be afraid of having some inexperience there in the secondary. John Feliciano, Andre Roberts, and Isaiah McKenzie, and Bills guy Zen coming in saying Daryl Williams, Matt Milano, John Feliciano, Levi Wallace, and Isaiah McKenzie. I'm with Andrew to a degree. I have one of the players Andrew has as my number 2. My number 2 player that I want re-signed, Andre Roberts. I think that Andre Roberts is a real key component to this offense. Why? Because he puts this offense in a position to score easily. I think one of the keys to being successful as a football team is having good field position. And even though he had some struggles later on in the season, those punt returns early in the season, setting us up at or around midfield. You got Andre Roberts number 2? Would you look at that? Would you?
I only put 4 guys because I don't only 4 guys I would want. I mean, there you go.
That field position is important. Take it away, Dave. Take it away.
Number 2, Andre Roberts. Look, he $2 million we paid him in 2020. Pay him $2 million again in 2021. I mean, the guy was like a stud for us. He had a couple mishaps. So what? He fumbled the punt in Denver. It didn't cost us, right? Guy set us up with good field position all year. He was consistent. He almost broke several. And I don't want to hear that Isaiah McKenzie returned a punt for a touchdown against Miami in week 17. I get it. I get it. But from a ball security and from a consistency standpoint for 16 games, I want Andre Roberts returning kicks and punts for this team. He's a Pro Bowler. He's a former All-Pro. He'll be cheap to re-sign. He's not going to be any more than the $2 million that you paid him in 2020. Sign him to the same exact contract again. $2.5 million in 2021. More than reasonable. 1-year deal. It's not going to kill you in 2022 on your cap. Bring back Andre Roberts. Number 2 priority for me.
Yeah, Andrew Miller says, just take a couple more knees. I think I can agree with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Kyle, who do you got? Who do you got as your number 2 on your list?
I'm in a similar place, except for I have it as Roberts / McKenzie, because I think you can only bring back one of them. I don't think you can bring back both. They're going to have to find a way to make some room to make even just a single change at the wide receiver position. And you can't do that if you bring back both of those guys, even if you cut John Brown. And obviously that's not something we've really talked about much tonight, but that's obviously a possibility. But you still can only bring back one of them. And whoever they bring back, that's going to be the guy who's the return man. I know McKenzie's not as reliable as Roberts. Obviously, Roberts is an all-pro. He's one of the best and one of the most consistent return men in the game. I will say there is a point where every guy hits their edge and they fall off the edge.
Okay. That's
and
fair.
I don't know what that point is for Andre Roberts. Maybe it's different for punt returners, but that's why I say it's either or. You bring back one of them, but that would be my second priority.
Or you just draft Jalen Darden and let him be your kicker and punt returner.
Casey, who do you got as your number 2 in your power rankings of 5 free agents you want to see the Buffalo Bills re-sign?
I'm going to get in on that Andre Roberts topic in 2.5 seconds. Daryl Williams would be number 2, but because you have to protect the line. If you can't get Feliciano, you have to re-sign Williams, right? It's one or the other on that one, just like it is for Andre Roberts or Isaiah McKenzie. But Williams would be number 2 for me when it comes to free agents that I'd like to bring back. Just Feliciano's above him, but we've hit on that a ton. Let's talk about Andre Roberts real quick. Knapp is right. It's one or the other. It's Andre Roberts or Isaiah McKenzie. You're going to bring back Andre Roberts over Isaiah McKenzie because Isaiah McKenzie is probably going to cost a little bit more than Andre Roberts, and you can replace Isaiah McKenzie via the draft of what he does, the speed guy, the gadget guy, the jet sweep guy. You can replace that in the draft.
All right. Moving on to number 3 on our list. Number 3 on my list is John Feliciano. And the reason why I have to Dave, are we the same again?
I mean, I've showed you this thing.
I guarantee you.
JF.
Sharing.
You might as well see my last one. It's Isaiah McKenzie's number.
Okay.
4.
Well, ours is different at 4 then.
Okay.
So my number 3 was John Feliciano because I don't like the other free agent class at guard and because I want to be in a position to draft the best player available. That is why hopefully John Feliciano will take some kind of hometown discount. If not, hopefully you can lock him down to a deal where you can get out of it in the second or third year, like you easily were able to get out of Vernon Butler's deal, like you were easily able to get out of Quentin Jefferson's deal. Maybe sign John Feliciano to something like that. So, Dave, why do you have John Feliciano as your number 3?
Well, kind of for the reason you mentioned earlier that the point Pierre brought up, right? If values are depressed from a free agency standpoint and guys are taking short-term deals and it's less likely that longer-term big money contracts are given out because guys are going to just want to sign somewhere, take a 1-year deal, and then hope to cash in 2022 when the cap ideally is back to normal. Now, this is where I kind of struggle because our guy is going to be willing to take 1-year deals for lower money. So not only are you getting the longer, lesser term, you're getting lower money. So that's why I think maybe guys will take longer-term deals for slightly lesser money they could have gotten in a normal year. But John Feliciano, I think, why I say him is because if you can get Daryl Williams and John Feliciano back on relatively cheaper deals because of the suppressed market and because of guys not getting maybe market value, and you can get these guys on shorter deals, maybe there's a chance that you can bring both of these guys back, assuming Matt Milano's out the door, right? Like if Matt Milano's out the door and you're like in your plan, that $14 million that you could have spent on Milano can now be spent elsewhere. Maybe that $14 million is spent between Daryl Williams and John Feliciano and Andre Roberts, the top 3 guys on my list, right? Maybe, maybe Daryl Williams gets 6 to 8 million. Maybe Andre Roberts gets 2, and maybe Feliciano gets like 4 to 6, and there's like your 14. I don't think I added that right. I think that was a little over 14. That was like 16. But still, you get my point. Like you could potentially bring back both of those guys. So for continuity's sake, and like you said, it gives you then flexibility in the draft. You don't have to target an interior guy early if you don't want to.
Yeah, Kyle, who do you got as your number 3 to re-sign?
So I'm gonna deviate a little bit here. So I'm kind of under the assumption that if guys take those hometown discounts, it's not going to be an early thing that happens. It's not going to be one of the first deals. So that, for me, that's why a guy like Matt Milano and John Feliciano can't make this list, because these are the guys that I kind of did this of who do we need to just go after first? Like, get this guy done, get this guy done, get this guy done, get this guy done. And then there might still be other guys that have deals done after that. But these are the guys that are kind of prioritized because it's going to be quick, easy to get the deals done and get that out of the way because they're important to the structure of the team. And I'm going with Ike Bakker because I want to have that line, that interior line depth. It's not because he's the best player. It's not because he's going to be starting for the team, because he probably shouldn't be starting for the team, but it's because he fills multiple spots on that interior line as that kind of swing guard for the team. Mm-hmm. And if you get him locked down, that gives you some more flexibility, and it gives you the opportunity to maybe wait a little bit and work things out with Feliciano a little bit down the road, where maybe he goes through the free agency process and he doesn't see the money out there that he wants. And then he comes back and he's like, okay, now I'm ready to get this deal done for a little bit less than I thought. So for me, I think you have to get that deal done with Bakker first, because it gives you the opportunity and the flexibility down the road to work it out with John Feliciano, possible.
Casey, who do you got as your number 3 free agent you'd like to see re-signed?
Levi Wallace. I think you go ahead and you tender him. You tender Levi Wallace and you bring him back. Him and Josh Norman have the same kind of skill set, but Levi Wallace has a higher ceiling than Norman. He's just a little bit slower in his reactive time when it comes to playing zone, but I think that's okay. You bring him back just because of the continuality. So yeah, Levi Wallace on that one.
I'm going to go ahead and say I assume all the RFAs will be back. So I didn't put anyone on my list.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking, because Bojo is definitely like we're gonna re-sign Bojo.
Butker, Bojo, Levi Wallace. I think all those guys are going to be back.
Yeah, for sure. We got Jeff King coming in. He says, "Guys, I wanted to apologize to you. I was harsh with my criticism of your post-Kansas City playoff game. I didn't agree with it, but I appreciate the amount of effort and time you guys put in." So it's all about, Jeff. Nobody's going to agree. I disagree with Casey every time he opens his mouth. So.
Every time.
Same. Honestly, Casey's never right.
This is what we're here for. We are here to share ideas. We are here to share opinions. We're here to make each other better. So, Jeff, we always appreciate you. We always appreciate your commentary. So don't worry about it, man. No need to apologize.
Am I the most hated person at BF?
Oh,
like, is that
probably not?
Probably yes.
We actually have family chat that is like everyone but you. It's like 29 people instead of 30.
Wow. Okay. Moving on. Who's your number 4, Steve?
Thank you for that setup. I really appreciate it. It's Taiwan Jones. I think that next year.
That's weak.
That's weak.
I think that can you at least listen to my justification before?
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
I think that
you're wrong.
I think it's going to be hard for our offense to attain this. I think they're going to be good, but I think it might be hard to attain that level that they had last year, especially with limited cap space to bring guys back. So a guy like Taiwan Jones, who's such a good gunner on special teams and can help affect the field position, and he can help secure that third aspect of a football team in special teams. Andre Roberts was on my list at 2, and Taiwan Jones is on my list at 4, because I want the special teams to be effective again and efficient again. I don't want to have to worry about them. I don't want special teams losing us close games. So give me those two special teamers, especially because I don't think we can afford Isaiah McKenzie the way we're cash strapped if we're re-signing Andre Roberts. I don't think we can afford Matt Milano if we're re-signing John Feliciano and Daryl Williams. So part of my thought process here was who's left. And Taiwan Jones is on that list of players where I think I want that guy across from Saran Neal gunning on every punt. I want him on, the kickoffs and stuff to be there to help us with the field position. So, and he's also a backup kick returner that Chris Jenke points out. He can also be your backup kick returner as well. So, he did have that drop. Against New England. He's going to need some redemption in 2021. He's going to need to catch a pass in the end zone, but give me Taiwan Jones. Who's your number 4, Dave?
Well, it was McKenzie, and honestly, it's really more about what's left. Like you said, I'm looking at the list of UFAs for the Bills, and you got guys like Croft, Josh Norman, Inseki, Mike Barkley, TJ Yeldon, Dean Marlowe. I mean, I guess you can make the case for Dean Marlowe maybe, but out of the guys left, I just went with the guy that I thought had the most talent and the most spark for the team. Although I don't think I do agree with what everyone else is saying as far as you're probably not going to be able to bring back both Roberts and McKenzie. But again, if you can bring back McKenzie, then it safeguards you again potentially from having to force yourself into maybe picking a gadgety type receiver in the draft. That's why I didn't have him higher. That's why I still had Andre Roberts above him, because I think he's going to be more expensive, like Knapp said. And I just think that you can find a guy to replace Isaiah McKenzie through the draft. Or, you can have a different situation where you have maybe someone else already on the team fill that role, like some of those jet sweep type roles. Maybe you have, I don't know, that I hate to say this, but maybe you have a guy like Stephon Diggs do that more next year. Don't want to put him in harm's way. Yeah, you don't want to necessarily put him in harm's way, but it's for those couple plays a game, is it worth bringing Isaiah McKenzie back for probably $3 to $4 million a year? I just don't think it is.
If you keep John Brown, why not use John Brown in that role too?
Yeah, or John Brown.
Brown, it'll give a bigger role
go.
To a guy like John Brown. There was a question here I wanted to answer before we get to you, Knapp, and that was, what kind of salary do you think McKenzie garners? I actually asked Greg Tomsett that. I sent him a message one day and I said, Greg, you're the capologist type of guy. What kind of deal do you think Isaiah McKenzie will get? And he said 1 year, 1.5 million, 2 years, 4 million. I kind of disagreed with Greg a little bit. And that is probably the safe range. And maybe because of the COVID cap year, Isaiah McKenzie will garner a contract like that. But at the end of the day, you saw guys leaving Kansas City who made plays in limited roles, guys like Albert Wilson, guys like Chris Conley, who got some big deals from other teams. I can see a team really falling in love with Isaiah McKenzie's skill set, seeing him as a playmaker, seeing him as a guy who can add juice to your offense, and maybe being like a Curtis Samuel light, maybe without the running back capabilities, and giving the dude $3 to $4 million a year. I can picture it. I don't think it's out of this world crazy to picture. It only takes one team to fall in love with a player like Isaiah McKenzie to sort of pay him. But Kyle, who is your number 4?
My number 4 is actually the same as yours. I had Taiwan Jones. I want to keep the special teams as good as possible. All 3 phases of the game are important. We cannot forget about special teams. If you have a gunner who is one of the best gunners in the league, and he's not going to be making you pay him $4 million a year, let's say we have a linebacker on the team maybe who's getting around $4 million a year, just a random hypothetical. But yeah, just a random hypothetical. We obviously don't have a guy like that. But if Taiwan Jones, $1 mil, $2 mil, just get it done, because he's going to be a guy who's just consistently at the ball making plays. And you can't replace a guy like him right away on special teams. He's a guy who you need his presence on the field.
Yeah, I mean, Richard comes in and Richard says, I'm not in love with McKenzie, but I think, he did plenty to deserve a spot on the team. He deserves a spot on this football team. Don't get me wrong, but you gotta weigh the money that you're going to pay him with other players that you want to pay. We have Stephon Diggs. We have Gabriel Davis. We have Cole Beasley. You have Isaiah Hodgins coming in next year. You have guys who can play the wide receiver position. There are other positions that are thinner, and you might need to take your limited resources and apply them elsewhere. And you might not be able to pay Isaiah McKenzie the money that he's going to want. So, Casey, who's your number 4? Did we already do? We didn't do it yet.
No. I'm last. Matt Barkley. Bringing Matt Barkley back on a team-friendly 1-year deal, letting him battle it out in camp. And the reason why I say that is because who's going to be the backup quarterback next year, right? Is it going to be Fromm? Absolutely, probably not, right? So you bring him back, and there's not really many quarterback in free agency that are going to sign for less money than what they're probably worth, right? Because there's a lot of people who are saying, let's bring Fitzmagic into Buffalo. Let's bring him back. But I don't think he's going to take like a 1 year, $1 million, 1 year, $2 million, type of contract. He's just not going to do that. So bring back Matt Barkley, let him battle it out in camp. And if Fromm beats him out in camp, you can get out of that contract pretty easily and just waive him and move on. But Matt Barkley.
All right. We had someone coming in. I said, Tyler Sertovan, really like this comment here. He says, I just think that Isaiah McKenzie can replace Roberts as a 2-for-1 price tag. I can get down with that. If you think that Isaiah McKenzie, or you think the Bills coaching staff can trust Isaiah McKenzie as a kick and a punt returner, I think it would make sense as a 2-for-1. You're getting rid of Andre Roberts. You're using Andre Roberts' money, and you're using Isaiah McKenzie's money. You're just combining it for a 2-for-1. You're maybe even saving a little bit of money. So I can get down with that thought process. My number 5 was Matt Milano. And I said number 5 because he's down my priority list. If I'm the Buffalo Bills, I'm offering Matt Milano $8 million per. I'm offering him an $8 million average contract. I'm saying, Matt, we will give you $8 million this year, and then we'll give you $10 million next year and $10 million the year after. Give him like 3 years, $28 million. All right, bump him up a couple of years after the cap goes back up, but just say, like, listen, you could take a 1-year, $8 million deal with us. You could take this 3-year, $28 million deal with us. We're a competitive football team. It's a COVID cap year, all these different things, whatever. Our offer is $8 million. Take it or leave it. Go test the free agent market. So he's down that priority list, and whereas you're not like desperate to sign him. So that's why I have Matt Milano down that list as a guy where it's just like, here's your offer. Here's what we can afford. Take it or leave it. Go test the market. Have fun. You can come crawling back to us if you'd like it. So that's what I have for Matt Milano as my number 5. Who's your number 5, Dave?
Well, I only had 4, so I'll go ahead and jump on the Matt Milano train too for the reasons you mentioned. I think the key for me was trying to figure out where to put him on this priority list, and in my heart, like we said, Steve, in the last show, like we get so caught up in like star power and wanting stars on the team, and like we wanted to see guys like Matt Milano stay on the team, but we also, have a hard time looking ahead and thinking like there could be another Matt Milano, or there could be someone better than him out there in the future. So I'm kind of with you, and like I'd love to like backload like a shorter term contract for him, like a 2 or 3 year deal, or even give him like 1 year, $8 million, just give him a 1 year, $8 million deal and let him hit free agency again in 2022. And if he has a great year, he puts 16 games together and he's not hurt and he stays on the field, then maybe the Bills pony up and give him that big money that he'd be looking to get. I do think some team is going to pay him. There'll be some team out there who's way under the cap, like the Jags or somewhere like that, who can afford the 14 mil, who will pay him. But in the off chance that he doesn't get that big long-term $12 to $14 million a year deal, maybe he would be willing to come back to the Bills for $8 to $9 million a year and then cash in again in 2022 on the big money deal in a higher cap. So I'll go with you on that.
Yeah, we got Chris Jakey coming in saying that's really sort of disrespectful offer money-wise. You don't want to alienate players in the locker room. I think this is the year you can get away with being a cheapskate, right? The COVID cap. It's like, listen, Matt, Matt, we really need our offensive line to come back. We feel like it's, there's a deeper pool of players at this position and this position. It's a COVID year. Any other year, we'd be making you a fair offer, but this is the fairest offer we can offer you. I think if any of the years we can get away with it, I think this is the year. Nap, who is your 5th and final must re-sign or priority on your power rankings list here?
Mine was also Milano. And it's kind of a cop-out at this point after he's been said twice. But just to kind of tack on to that comment there, I think when you're talking about alienating the players in the locker room off of an offer that you make to a player, I don't think that happens off of just one offer. If you offer one guy less than he's worth, even if it's not a COVID year where the salary cap's lower, but if you offer Matt Milano less than his market value in a regular year, but you're still giving out contracts to other guys at their value or even sometimes above it, depending on the guy, you're not going to alienate your players. And I think Brandon Beane knows that. So if he finds a guy who's like, no, look, you've played really well. You've developed really well. You've been great in our system. But you're worth this in our system. And Matt Milano, I think, is probably that guy where his market value is different than his Bills value, what the Bills should be willing to pay him. So I don't know if it's necessarily a disrespectful thing that would alienate the locker room. He's still a guy I would want to try and resign. I'm right there with you. Once there's other guys that are signed, once maybe he tests the market a little bit, or even just give him an offer and say, here's what we can do. If you want to test the market, go ahead. But he's still a guy that, as much as I don't want to have to pay him a ton of money, you have to at least make an attempt to re-sign him before just letting him walk.
Yeah, I totally agree. How about you, Casey? Who's your fifth and final free agent on your power rankings list?
Dean Marlowe. Only because I think Matt Milano is already gone, right? David already said it, when Brandon Beane was like, hey, he deserves the chance to test free agency, right? That kind of tells me that it's going to be way out of our price range, which it is. He's way out of our price range. I think he's gone. You bring back Dean Marlowe. He's not going to cost a lot. You sign him for 1 year, whatever money, $1 million, whatever it might be, 1.5, bring him back. He's played good in a limited role in our back end. And I think having depth in the safety position is good as well.
I know, I agree with you. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we just went an hour and 15 strong. I just posed a question in our private comment section here. Do we have enough time to run a mock simulation tonight, Dave? Because I have an idea of how we can run one smoothly and quickly.
I said we give smoothly and quickly, sure.
I think we give Casey the first pick.
Okay.
I think we have Kyle the second pick.
Okay.
I think we give you the third round pick. No trades. And we give me both fifths and the sixth.
Okay.
Sound good?
All right. Let's do it. I'm going to pull it up right now.
Let's do it. Let's pull it up.
You see that? I get pick 30.
Yeah, but that's so people can.
Yeah, so don't mess this one up, Casey.
Here's the thing. Yeah, here's the thing. It's going to be very difficult, right? You kind of want the right person to fall to you. You don't want to overdraft someone in value at 30. I'm all team trade back and getting more picks between what is it, like pick 93. No trades. I know. That's the bad thing. But I am team trade back to get more picks between 93 and 146. I think that's the big, you hate to sit and do nothing during those picks.
Yeah,
but
you're right, Randy. Yeah. Chat should get around. We'll give the chat round 6.
Yeah, chat gets round 6. Good idea. Good idea, Randy. All right, can we see my screen? We got to add it in.
Let's add it to the screen.
There we go.
There we go.
Can I zoom in a little bit more?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. How's
Trevor
that?
Lawrence.
That better? There we go. All right, I'm going to start the draft. All right, so it's Casey round one, Nap round 2, me round 3, Steve, you're 5, right? And then the chat is round 6. Okay, here we go.
I like this comment from Manny.
I know. I saw it.
All right, we're rolling, and we're not taking any trades. So far, no offers, which is a shock because usually there's about 20 offers.
Remember last one? We got like 10 offers in the first round.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, we can't even trade if we're not getting any offers.
Yep, there's the offer. Decline.
Oh. Yeah, decline that.
All right, Casey.
Who's on board?
Here is your time to shine. There's your big board. Let me know what you want to see, and I'll show it to you.
Oh, I know who he wants.
Oh, dude. Yeah, that one's an easy one. Oh, that fell perfectly for me. This is a dream scenario, I think, for the Bills. Honestly, it is. Regardless of if they, sign J.J. Watt in free agency, if that just happens to happen, right, in a perfect world that Bills Mafia wants, they're still going to draft an edge guy. And when a guy like Jalen Phillips falls to you at pick 30, you go ahead and you scoop him up. That guy is an animal. Just go and watch any Miami game this past year. He is awesome. I love Jalen Phillips. Go ahead and hit draft him.
Am I the only one who's like not that big on Jalen Phillips? I feel like I'm the only person,
Yes,
but
you
I'll
Get
take
out of
him.
here.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
Jalen Phillips. I love
All right.
Jalen Phillips.
All right, we'll take him. I don't know. Maybe like Miami has too many edge guys. I don't know if any of them are that good.
We got Knapp coming up next in the second.
I'm not. For the record, I'm not Team Jalen Phillips, but I'll get behind it for this mock.
We've taken a edge rusher in the first round, so the pressure on Knapp now to maybe go offense, double down on
His-
defense.
Landon Dickerson
Jay-
gonna make it.
Jalen
Nope.
Phillips is injury history. His medical history is a concern. Yes, he did retire a little bit before going to
Oh.
Miami.
I'll tell you what, there's a player on that board that I love. I don't know if Knapp is a fan, but
All right, declining this.
I would double
trade.
down on defense, I think, at this point. But that's
Hollywood.
Oh,
Hollywood Vaughn.
Nap, don't mess this up for me.
Oh,
yeah. No, we're just going with Chesserot. Just make the pick.
Yes.
there it is.
Yeah.
Doubling down on the defense.
Yes, make the pick.
Nope.
That's so easy. If he's there in round 2, you just gotta just get the pick in early and go.
Bills have added an edge rusher, and they
I
have
agree with
added-
Randy. Bad first round pick,
linebacker.
predictable. Thank you. Someone actually agrees with me. All right.
The Bills are going all in
AC
on
stays
defense.
catching the
And honestly, if this draft correlates with the Buffalo Bills re-signing Mongo and Daryl Williams, I think you got to be happy, right?
Yeah, I mean, if
Look
you
at the
don't like
Carolina
the Jalen,
Panthers last year. Look at the Carolina Panthers last year.
if you don't like the Jalen Phillips pick, then you haven't seen him play, or you just see that he has
No, I
medical
have
histories.
No, I
No,
haven't
me-
seen him play.
Me and you, David, we're gonna talk offline because I do want to hear your thoughts on him.
And we got Dave up here now with a lot of pressure on him in the third round.
Ugh.
Go long at tight end.
You can
Make
get that
Ryan
big.
happy.
You can get that big. You can get that big beef.
Yep.
Big beef right there in the middle.
I think
That's what I was looking at, too.
I might make Steve happy with this pick. We'll see.
He'll fall to the fourth.
No, he will not. He's the top
Yeah,
offensive
he
tackle
will.
on the board.
He'll fall to the fourth.
We also don't have a fourth round pick.
Well, it sucks to suck. That's why you make a
You
trade.
guys really. Ooh, there's my guy too, Kenneth Gainwell. I like him. God, this is not.
You
I
have the
don't-
toughest one right now.
Yeah, you
I
have the
don't
toughest
love this. I'm gonna have to reach, or do I go with a big fatty and Tyler
Go with
Sheldon?
that
and
big-
go
I mean,
triple?
Come on, baby.
you go with that big
Come on,
fatty.
rebuild that defense. Do it. Peer pressure.
If they got Shelvin in the
Peer
third, that would
pressure.
be a really, really good because you're Go
Imagine
quarterback.
him
Do it.
just
Do
holding
it.
two
Do
offensive
it.
linemen while Ed Oliver runs right by.
I took Shelvin.
There we
I
go.
wanted to take Walker Little. But we're going
No,
under the assumption that Daryl Williams and Feliciano are back, I guess, for this
You
draft.
force pressure. That's incredible. I love it.
Listen, here's the thing with Tyler Shelvin, and I don't think he's going to be there in the third round. Like in my opinion, seeing what Vita Vea did in the Super Bowl for Tampa Bay and the lanes he opened up for other people, I just see shades of Vita Vea and Tyler Shelvin. And this is a guy who opted out, didn't play as much, so he's going under the radar. But this dude's an absolute freak in the middle of that defensive line. He's going to plug so many gaps. He's going to open up so many things for Tremaine Edmonds and Jerry Hughes and Ed Oliver. I would take Tyler Shelvin. I said this before. I would take Tyler Shelvin at 30. I'm crazy, man. I would take him at 30. I absolutely love his game. If Vita Vea is a 15th overall pick in a draft, give me Tyler Shelvin in the middle rounds. All right.
You've said here's a guy a couple times, and every single time you say it, I want to see like a slide in. I know that's not the exact thing that he does, but I want to see it.
We're gonna keep going on the. Show me the wide receivers. Oh, give me Anthony Schwartz from Auburn. Take it. Mark it down. Give me that
That's
speed.
what you want. Okay.
Give me that speed. 4.22 or 4.25 speed. Give it to me. Give me that
All
speed.
right.
That Auburn
Oh,
guy.
I know why Steve did this, so he could get 2 picks.
Yep.
This is exactly why he wanted this round.
Oh, what do you think about Marvin Wilson? Steve?
I like Marvin Wilson.
I like Marvin
Show me the offensive tackles.
Ooh, my guy's there, Cordell.
Show me the guards. Give me Jack Anderson from Texas Tech.
Yeah,
I like Jack Anderson.
Okay. Chat, you're up. Get ready,
Chat
chat.
is on the board.
Chat is up. We're going to go based on, I guess, whoever gets the most name drop in there. So we'll go.
This is the least trade happy that I've seen the Draft Network be.
Maybe they
Once in a while
fixed
you
it
get
because like it wasn't realistic to get like 1 million trade offers. But all right, chat, you're up. Let me know who you want to see. I'll start with showing you the main big board. This is your main big board here.
Ooh.
So we have taken an edge. We've taken
Here are
a
our picks right
linebacker.
here. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what the chat says. I know they're a little behind, so let's
Look at
give them a second.
the corners. Look at the corners for Randy here.
All right, we'll take a look at the corners.
Robert Rochelle from Central Arkansas. He's a guy.
He's a guy.
See
Do
what's
we
left
like
at
any-
tight end also.
Yeah.
There's nobody outside in this low.
Jerry Angeline.
That's what I
my
assumed,
guy.
but I just wanted to double
Gary
check.
Angeline's a really good tight end, by the way. And so
Yeah,
is Matt
he's my guy.
Luke Farrell
Gary.
can block. Morris from Bowling Green impressed a lot of people at the Super Bowl. Look at the running backs.
All right. Oh my God, I'm not even.
Puka should be there.
Herbert from
Maribel.
Virginia Tech is-
Maribel's there. Steve, your guy.
Herbert's
Maribel. Jamar Jefferson is pretty impressive as well. Yeah,
Patterson's
there's some impressive
gone.
running backs there.
Stanky, Chubb, Patterson, they're gone. I mean, no one said a name yet, so I don't know.
Yeah.
what we're
Well,
going
Randy
with
said he likes Robert Rochelle, the corner. Do we
Okay,
go corner here?
Let's see.
Going corner seems like a McDermott type of pick. Like just
I mean,
get
this
a
would,
corner in there again.
Yeah, just to add to the room, right?
Yeah.
All right. Sheldon Cole says Jefferson, Jamar Jefferson, Rochelle.
Rochelle. We got
from
two
Randy.
Rochelles now.
Okay, so that's Rochelle. We got 2 for Rochelle. So I guess we'll go going once, going twice on Rochelle here. We'll go with him. Why?
You got to scroll up a little bit.
There
he was
he is right there.
Oh, there he is.
Oh God,
He was there.
sorry. There he is. All right, there you go. Let me see what my comments on Jalen Phillips are, Casey, so I can tell you what I said about him.
Yes, please, if you don't mind, because I honestly would like to hear your thoughts on him because I respect you. I don't respect Steve, but I
love
respect
the
you.
draft, by the way. I like the draft.
I'd be very
I
happy with this.
said, okay, so he was really like my comments were 1 year wonder, played more standing up than he did with his foot, with his hand in the dirt. I saw him more as a 3-4 outside linebacker than a real pure 4-3 edge rusher. Those were the comments I had on him. Now he is 258, so he's kind of right in that in between area where if he had a few more pounds on him, he probably could be. But that guy like screams Aaron Maben to me.
Ooh. He's more beef than that.
He's only 258. I mean, yeah, but he's still not that like Jerry Hughes is 254. So
Yeah,
like,
I mean, you got Randy in your corner. That's all you need.
Look,
That's
That's fine.
I'm just one guy, right? I'm just one guy. That's just like there are other guys I like more. I like Patrick Jones more. I like
out of Pitt.
I like Aziz more, even though he's more of a middle linebacker, SLB type, I think, more than a 4-3 edge. I like Peyton Turner from Houston more. Maybe not more. I just like the value more, maybe where you can get him than I do Phillips. But look, I know the Bills need an edge, so if they go with Phillips, I'll get behind it. I'll support it. Just not my preference.
All right, ladies and
I
gentlemen.
prefer Basham.
It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sticking with us this evening. Kyle, tell us a little bit about your podcast, which will be dropping tomorrow morning on the Buffalo Fanatics Podcasting Network.
Tomorrow, I have Casey on for anyone who didn't hear at the beginning. Casey joined me.
Don't
Yeah, you're right. I probably shouldn't even promo that, I guess. Like let's just cut it. Let's just cut it. But no, Casey and I talked through not just a couple of the free agents. We talked through every single one of the Bills free agents and decide what we should be doing. So some of what we talked about tonight, but we went a little bit more in depth And then we also talked about cut candidates. Who should stay? Who should go? How do we create some cap space? It was a really fun show. And as much as I don't always enjoy talking to Casey, we made the best of it.
At what point, guys, does our bullying of Casey go too far? Like, at what point?
I'm getting absolutely murdered right now. But that's
Casey,
all right.
What are your thoughts on the Florida State boy here, Janarius Robinson, the edge?
I'm glad that you brought that up, Andrew Miller. I actually like him. With a good coaching staff, he could probably come out and actually be a really good edge player. He actually bounced around from coaching staff to coaching staff, and he underperformed a lot. But you've seen a couple of guys from Florida State come in like the 4th to 5th rounds here these past couple of years and produce, be solid backups. And I think he is a solid backup. If he's sitting there in the 4th or 5th and you don't have an edge yet, I don't hate drafting him.
And huge
And
shout
he
to
is huge. He's got a great wingspan as well.
Huge shout out to Casey for being the BF mock draft guy. You've been accumulating the mock drafts for us this entire offseason thus far.
And if you want to hear him talk more about the draft, he's actually we're going to be doing, me and him specifically, he's going to be coming on the show a couple times before the draft happens. So as much as we trash each other, we enjoy doing content.
It almost sounds like you guys like each other.
And let me say this.
It's a love-hate relationship.
As much flack as Casey's gotten tonight, he has done a really good job putting those mock drafts together on the blog.
Look,
hats off
hey,
to you,
y'all can't just trash me all show long and then at the end be like, well, he's actually okay.
Hey, I didn't trash you. I just didn't like the Jalen Phillips pick.
I don't remember a single bad thing I said about you.
Here's the thing, Dave.
David, you're cool. You're cool with me.
I feel like sitting in silence and just watching it happen. You're sort of you're enabling.
Oh, you're complicit.
You're enabling.
Guilty by association.
Yeah, you're guilty.
Also, Casey, I've never said a bad word about you.
I love how Casey went on your Facebook and found like a picture of you playing basketball.
I sent that to him.
He sent that to me.
Yeah,
he sent that to me.
No, but he did Facebook stalk me and like other stalk me. So
I don't use Facebook. I just Googled. Hey, fellas, be careful what you put out there on Google. Just saying.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a real pleasure. Until next time. I'll start off, then I'll go Casey, then I'll go Kyle, and then it'll go Dave. And we're going to do it right this time. Until next time, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.